All right. Good evening, Facebook. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am sharing my screen as I always do. And there we are going to jump right into this amazing conversation that we're going to have tonight with the amazing Akearah Anderson. You all give me a hot second to share as I do. It also allows me an opportunity to make sure that we're actually live and that they can hear us because sometimes they cannot. Hello, let's see. All right, we are being heard. All right, give me a second. I am sharing. I'm super excited. More options. Share. Feel free to share it if you want to, Akearah.
Yep, I'm doing that right now.
Awesome. All right, turn my volume up too. All right, welcome back, Facebook. I am super excited to be with you all tonight. My name is Keisha Hamilton, and I am your host for a meeting of diverse minds. I am super excited to welcome Akearah Anderson. Woo! You all do not know Akearah yet, but once you finish, we finish with this conversation today, you're going to feel the exact same way as I do. You're going to want to celebrate the beautiful Akearah Anderson. So Akearah, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Decided to join and come on the show. I need people to know all this Black girl magic that you have stored up in you, that you allow to spill out in different ways. So I'm super excited about the conversation tonight and super grateful that you're here. Before I get started with Akearah, though, I'll give a couple of definitions. I wanted to make sure that we keep our definitions front and center on a meeting of diverse minds. So we always are talking about historically authentic racial equity engagement. One of the reasons why I'm super excited to have Akearah on here tonight is because we don't often talk about advocacy and organizing, and they are vital to diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism. So let's go ahead and just kind of define those super quickly. I'm going to give a very brief definition of those because I want the bulk of this conversation to definitely be with Akearah. You all are going to want to hear what she has to say. So we define diversity as simply our difference. We've given an example before, and we make reference to the fact that not only is our difference related to the skin tone, you see Akearah and I have different skin tones. I'm a darker skinned woman. Akearah is a lighter skinned individual, and we are both different in that way. But on a meeting of diverse minds, we focus and highlight the difference of our thought processes and how those drive what we think, what we do, and how we behave, the decisions that we make. So that's a real quick definition for diversity. Inclusion is, again, we talked about the fact that it's not just simply being invited to the party, it's having a part in designing the party. It's being at the very foundation of whatever's being created so that you have part in what food's decided, when we're talking about the party example, what food is decided on, what music is being had, the decorations, the location, all those things is what actual inclusion is when you are at the table making those decisions. Again, inclusion is all about that decision-making table and you being there and your voice being heard and it being included in whatever has been created or is being created. Equity, we remember, is all about giving individuals what they need in order to succeed, recognizing that we all have different needs, and equity is not fair because what I need, you may not need. I may need more than what you need, and it still is equitable when we provide each other what we need. And again, equity is not fair. Again, we're going through these definitions really quickly tonight because I want the bulk of this conversation to have Akearah's information because I'm super excited about it. So advocacy, I did want to include advocacy and organizing tonight simply because that is a large part of this conversation. And again, it's a huge part of DEI and anti-racism work is the ability to advocate and to organize. So advocacy is defined, and you can Google reference these definitions if you want to, but advocacy is simply the public, and I kind of added this because I think it's appropriate, and out loud support for a particular cause or policy. So we're talking about advocacy, again, it's the public or out loud support for a particular cause or policy. And then organizing, it sounds like what it is. It's the ability to arrange into a structured whole or to make arrangements or preparations, is to coordinate. Okay, we needed to get that out the way because we have, this conversation is more important than definitions, but you need to know, we need to start at the same space, you know what I mean? Okay, Akearah. Okay, people, Akearah, tell us who you are.
Okay, well, a little bit about me. I'm Akearah Anderson. Hi, guys. I'm 21 years old. I recently just graduated from Jackson College. I put on the first protest in Jackson for Black Lives Matter.
Wow.
And I'm looking to get my bachelor's in social work, and so I can
Awesome.
continue to help my community out. And so yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Wow. Okay. So people, we know that, these are just highlight versions of all the magic that's, contained within Akearah, you know what I mean? But you graduated, you said just recently from Jackson College. What was your degree in?
It's a liberal arts, but it's a focus on social work.
Oh, I love that. Social work is I think all social work people, are absolutely amazing because you got to have a heart for it. You know what I mean? You have to have a heart for people to go into social work type fields. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So thank you, Akearah, for being one of those hearts that are in our social work fields and that is pushing forward, the ideas and the perspectives that you have, because you bring a lot to the table. Okay, so I heard one thing, and I was thinking about me at 21. I'm not gonna tell you what I was doing at 21, because then you'll be like, okay, what were you doing and why? Like, what, you need to be doing better. But anyways, so we won't talk about me, but I'm so proud of you, 21 years old, and that's right now. This is 2022. Okay, so the march was in 2020.
Yes, I believe so. I think it was 19.
Was it 19? Was it
20?
20?
I think I was 19 when I put it on. I'm pretty sure. 19.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So I think it was in 2020 because he was killed. It was in response to George Floyd, correct?
Yep, correct.
Okay, so you were very, very, very young, like right out of high school, organizing huge marches for the entire city of Jackson around this issue. That's pretty huge for a 19-year-old. Okay, so just in case the audience didn't realize that, we're going to talk all about the organizing and what took place. Okay, so because I do want us to focus on the organization and the advocacy that you did during that time, I think it'd be nice for us to kind of set the stage as to what was going on in the world at that time, in Jackson at that time, and just in relation to you, what were you feeling? So kind of walk us a little bit through what you were feeling and what kind of prompted you to, do what you did.
Okay, so what prompted me to put on the protest was I saw what happened with George Floyd, sadly. And so, I wanted to get out there. I wanted to get active. I wanted to go, protest and bring attention to what happened to him. And so I started to look around Jackson to see if there's any protests, because there is protests happening in Lansing, Ann Arbor. But then, I didn't really see anything happening for Jackson. So I kept on waiting and waiting for someone to put on a protest until, I talked to my mom about it. And me and her decided, hey, why don't you throw this protest? And we put it together in 2 days, and we just made a Facebook page and made it public and made it known and had people show up. And that's what really inspired me, because I didn't want my young brothers growing up and seeing me not do anything about it. I'm the oldest out of 6.
Wow.
And so and so I try to be like a role model for them, and show them that you can do things. You don't have to wait for somebody older than you to do it. You can do it first. You can be the first person to do it.
Wow. I'm thinking back even, so thank you so much for just sharing that, because it's so powerful. I know that all of us, when he died, there was such a feeling of helplessness watching, and I didn't watch the video for years. I literally didn't see it until they went to trial. I guess it was late last year, because this is April. So I didn't see video footage until the trial, because it was just too much, for me at the time. Just the words, reading what happened to him was just too much. But I know during that time I was, just so emotional. I was crying. I had calls that I was on, and I was just breaking down, crying, and just angry and mad, and just really didn't know what to do with all that emotion, and wanting to do something with it, and, not knowing what to do with it still. So when the opportunity came up, I had never been involved in a protest like that. So thank you, Akearah, for giving us an outlet as an entire community to be able to express what we were feeling, because we needed to, and it felt so good for me at that time to be able to express, even just walking. So I'm a quiet person, generally speaking. People don't believe that, but I actually am. And I don't like the forefront. So all I did was just got to walk and just feel this community, this sense of community, just all these people. And that was huge. I mean, Jackson's not an Ann Arbor or a Lansing as far as in size, but for our community, there were so many people. There were older people, there were younger people, there were Black and white, and our LGBTQ community. It was just so many people. And all because you said, you know what? No, nobody else is doing it. And I love to, even just talking about your siblings and being the older sibling. And thank you so much to your mother, because she's absolutely amazing to have raised a daughter like you, who said, you know what, hold on. it's not happening. Okay, I guess I got to be the one to do it, because they matter to me that much. My brothers and sisters matter to me. My community matters that much to me. But I know that was a lot of the feeling of hopelessness that so many of us were experiencing during that time. Just what if that were us? What if that was us?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was powerful, to to walk, just down the street. It was powerful watching you and your mom set up, because I didn't know you at all during that time. I'm just like, she did it, like that young girl, like she all by herself, like really, like, wow, I was in awe. You know what I mean? So thank you, for doing that for us, because it really, I think it really impacted our community. Now for you, so you were there. Let's kind of talk about the actual event itself. So you were there, you had organized it. All these people are there. What then? I know you had some things that you were able to say. Talk us through that. What did it feel like?
Okay, so I'm not a public speaker at all. Like, those of you who know me, like, do not like speaking, in public and things. But I knew that I was going to have to, address the crowd of people, and I knew I was going to have to, be a participant in this march and talk to people. So I was meeting new people, and I mean, I would expect myself to feel overwhelmed, but I didn't. I felt so, I guess, calm and at home, because my community was back there, and they were, supporting me and backing me up. And it was just nice to see my community come together like this and be able to be, old people, young people, Black, brown, white people, we're all out here, and we're all fighting for the same cause. And so I expected myself to be nervous, but I wasn't nervous, because I had, my community supporting me and lifting.
I think that one of the things that gets lost in advocacy is just all the different ways that, and organizing, all the different ways that an individual can support and organize. So you don't have to always be the one that's speaking. Sometimes you're simply the one that's calling people and saying, hey, look, this is where we're meeting, and this is what we're doing, and this is how we're going to do it, which is the organizer. You know what I mean? And sometimes it can just be the one who's saying, I'm showing up. Sometimes it can be people who are bringing the water. Sometimes it can be people who are, watching kids, or bringing food, or donating money. I think when we talk about advocacy, especially because, again, it's so important to DEI and anti-racism work, it takes a lot of courage. And, so we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism here on A Meeting of Diverse Minds. Again, as I mentioned before, advocacy and organizing is very important to that work alone. Because, again, being able for us all to recognize all the pieces that we bring, you know what I mean? And not thinking that one piece is more important than another, you know what I mean? And recognizing that the smallest voice, the smallest contribution, the smallest support, is crucial to the whole becoming, for the whole to be created, or for it to be brought to fruition. I remember seeing that day, your mom and I think some other people were bringing up drinks, and that was important to the organizing. You want to talk a little bit about those pieces?
Yeah, of course. So, I had people, inbox me once they found out I was the person who was throwing it, like, can I bring snacks? Can I bring water? Do you need anything? And, and I, so I had people bring stuff, and I also reached out to people who would like to make a speech or talk. And I also had like Hakeem and them, reach out to me and stuff. I asked them, would you like to make a speech? And they're like, yeah, of course. And so it was nice to have that support, because, we all came together and made this protest. Like, I just want people to understand that it wasn't just me, I had, your guys' support too. And I thank you guys for.
Oh yeah. But it does take somebody who's willing to take that first step. And you took that first step, you know what I mean? And we were waiting for you, this 19-year-old, beautiful young lady, to say, no, I'm going to do something. And then we all jumped on, on board, because of course we were waiting for you. So again, I just want to, highlight that and thank you for that. I'm thinking, again, I'll probably say this again, because it's just so important, the support that you had. If had we not all got right behind you, then obviously it wouldn't have occurred, you know what I mean? And it's important to me that people understand that while we do need somebody willing to stand up, we've got to have a first step taker. And Akearah Anderson, you were that first step taker in that moment that we needed. You stood up and you answered the call. We needed you to do that so that we could get behind you. And then us getting behind you was as important as you standing up, because then it created what we needed for it to be created. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I'm just hopeful that people will, if you, as you're listening today, you'll recognize that advocacy and organizing is important to diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism work. One of the other things that I think is important is just in, oh, and we do have one question here that I think it would be good to answer. So Tremaine, he's a regular listener. Thank you so much for joining us, Tremaine. And there are quite a few people, I think you might see them on here. So thank you all for being on here tonight. But the protest, so Akearah Anderson here, my guest, she organized the first protest in Jackson, and it was after George Floyd's murder that she organized it. She was 19 at the time. 19, barely out of high school, but she organizes huge event in Jackson all by herself, in the sense that you got this idea. You said, hey, look, mom, we got to do something. And mom said, all right, let's figure out how to make it work. And then you organized it, and we came together as a community. The other thing I did want to talk a little bit more about is just the idea of protesting.
Okay.
So tell us why it was important to you for us to protest. What did protest in your mind mean at that time? What were you hoping to accomplish, maybe? You know what I mean?
My main goal was to bring attention to my struggling community, the Black and Brown community. We're out here, we're struggling, we need support. And another main goal of mine was to show the youth in Jackson that,
Wow.
you can do anything you want. Like, you barely knew me, and now a bunch of people know me. You can be out here and you can do these things. Like, you don't have to just sit down and wait for somebody else to do it.
Yes.
You can draw attention to your cause. And I wanted to draw attention to the cause and give these young people somebody to look up to.
Yes. Yeah, because you're still famous here in Jackson, you know what I mean? But at the time it was like, okay, I'm on Google, I'm on Facebook. Who is Akearah Anderson? Who is Akearah Anderson? Who's this amazing person that I gotta know? And I didn't even meet you until probably more than a year after, really. But at the time, all of us were definitely like, who is this dynamic person that we need to know? You know what I mean? In protesting, I love just what you said as far as, giving young people a voice, letting them know that, they have a voice and they can use their voice. You know what I mean? The importance of that. I think in protesting, even in our goals for protesting, raising awareness about an issue is key to issues. It is like the foundation of issues. It's the everything. You know what I mean? So some people are afraid of the term protest. They're just like, oh my God, when it comes to protest and boycotting, they're just like, oh my God, don't talk about them. Don't say anything about, but they are key to changing, issues. They're key to transformation. Without the protest, you know what I mean? So during that year, your protest was in June, July?
I believe it was in June. I want to say June.
Mm-hmm. I think it was June. Yep. So your protest, we had a few things going on at that time that I love that your mom says silence is complicity, and she is 100% correct. But one of the things that your protest did during that time, it really tempered and prepared the way for other things that we were asking for in the city. So it's like, individuals who are preparing their meat to be cooked the next day, they have to prepare it. You might season it. You may, I don't know, do they still use those meat, those things where you soften your meat up with? I don't know if people are still using those things, or if that's like, if I'm dating myself a little bit here. But, when you prep your food, or you prepare, like you go and get a degree or something like that so that you can go and perform whatever, there's a preparation that has to occur. There's some tempering it, some just preparing the way, and protests prepare the way. So when you did the protest in June, we were at that time, myself and a couple other people were, hammering the mayor at the time, the then mayor, about creating a Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We wanted a chair, chief equity officer at the city level, and we also want meat tenderizer. Thank you, Tremaine. And we also wanted a department, a racial equity commission. So, and your protest again, Akearah, it was, and I don't know if you know how far reaching it was, but it brought the community together in such a way where they were like, okay, we're ready for what's next. And so I don't know that I fully even in that moment, put together Akearah's protest really tempered the community, because when I came in, a couple months later, July, August, begging the community, and it wasn't really difficult, but I came in and said, hey, we want these 3 things. this is how these 3 things will impact our community and help us bring racial justice for Jackson, and I need your support. I had all kind of community support. And likely it was because of you having the courage to say, let's get this protest going, let's have it, and the community was like, okay, now we're ready for what's next. And we now have, because in September of that year, I think it was September, we had unanimous support from council, and we had all 3 of those implemented. So we have a racial equity commission, we have a Department of Diversity and Inclusion, and we have a chief equity officer. And this is all likely spawned from your desire to just, nope, I'm going to say something. So thank you, Akearah, again. Any thoughts from just that?
Well, I just, and I want to thank you for pushing for those 3 things, and I want to thank you for all that you do in our community and how you're an advocate and how you push for things, and you inspire me as well. And I just want you to know that too.
Thank you. But I'm so glad though that we got to have this conversation and we're able to have it, because again, people are so afraid of the term protesting and advocacy and boycotting. It holds such, bad negative connotations, when again, it is key to transformational change. You know what I mean? Okay, so after the protest is over, we didn't talk about the speech. Do you remember any of your speech or what that message was during that speech, or did we kind of cover that already?
We kind of covered it already, because in my speech, I focused on, that I wanted to show the youth that they don't have to wait for somebody who is older than them to do something first. You can take that first step, and you are fully capable to take that first step. And I also talked about how seeing, what happened to George Floyd, how it made me nervous, because that could be my dad, that could be my brothers, that could be anybody.
Yeah.
And I just touched on how everyone can't wait for someone to do something, because then nothing will get done. Someone has to get out there and someone has to do it. So that's mainly what I focused on for that.
Yeah. I love that too. We all can't be just waiting. Somebody's got to decide that, I'm just going to take the first step. And it's amazing how when a person will take the first step, how others will jump right in, because they're waiting for, that they have this saying, you are who you've been waiting for. And sometimes we we just see these sayings and we're liking them like, oh, that's so inspiring. And in actuality, like, no, you really are who you're waiting for. So, because then after you get up and do what you're waiting for, then everybody else is like, yeah, I've been waiting for, sadly, but also kind of good that you took the step and then others decide to jump in. I love the message too, that you were really intentional about sharing when it comes to young people, because again, you're never too young. You were fresh out of high school. You know what I mean? At that time, it wasn't like you were 40 with kids and, married and, you know what I mean? You weren't, mastered and, doctored up. You know what I mean? You were just fresh out of high school, maybe a year of college or so, I don't know. You know what I mean? But you were like, no, I'm not too young. I can organize the city of Jackson. I mean, we're a city of at least 38,000 people. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So that's a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? To say, now we know we didn't have 38,000 people marching with us, but even I don't know, we might have, I don't know, was it 1,000? Was it 500, 600, 800? Do you remember about?
I'd say we had a pretty good chunk of people.
Oh yeah. It was huge. It was very, I mean, the pictures, and I was there. So, it was quite a few people, and that was a lot of people to organize, what I mean? All by yourself, what I mean? And that idea, what I mean? I keep saying that because I just want people to understand how huge, how impactful, how important, how transformative, and how it guides and leads the way for what comes next. Okay, so after the protest, you're home, what I mean? It's kind of cleaned up. What are you feeling?
So after the protest, I was feeling like shocked that so many people showed up. Because I was expecting maybe 100 people, but it was way more than 100 people. Yeah. And I remember getting home and Maisha messaged me about coming on to the show on her, Mondays with Mai.
Yep.
Yeah, I said, oh my gosh, I've always watched, her shows, and I love her. So I'm like, oh my gosh, she invited me on the show. I have to go home. I have to rush, get ready, and go on the show. So I didn't have much time to transition or think about it, because I went from doing it to talking about it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Same
an
day.
hour. Yes.
Wow. That's awesome. So you didn't have any time to kind of just breathe.
No.
Yeah, you were like super famous that day. You know what I mean? That was awesome. So you get home from the show, a couple days go by. What's in your thoughts at that time? What are you feeling? Are you still not even able to think or anything? You know what I mean?
I I know I've been talking about like the youth a lot and
Yeah.
focusing on them, but it really settled in how much,
Yeah.
like how many kids were there.
Yes.
And it shocked me to see, all these little kids, fifth graders and under that are here at this protest. And it made me feel good that they're getting out here and that, their parents brung them so that they can see, that protesting isn't just, it's not all bad. It's not just burning stuff up. It's,
Right.
Getting out here, being active, marching. And I guess I was more focused on that.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. Even when I think about, because when we think about, diversity, inclusion, and anti-racism, and, being historically authentic in our responses to these issues that we have related to racial injustice, our babies are actually experiencing these things. I mean? They're, sometimes the question I've heard and seen in different places, how young, or how early, should you begin talking to your Black and brown children about racism? And as early as they're experiencing it. And sometimes as early as they're experiencing it is when they're in the womb. You know what I mean? Now, obviously, we're intentional about how we have that conversation with them at different ages, but having the conversation is necessary because we begin experiencing it before we're born. You know what I mean? Some of us don't become born, aren't born because we've experienced racism, because they didn't listen to a Black mother when she's talking about the pains that she's having or whatever she's experiencing in her body. And because of racism and this idea that, Black people can accept more pain and just ignoring a lot of what we're saying, even still to this day, but even, especially our maternal Black mothers or mothers who are pregnant, Black mothers who are pregnant, sometimes their babies die, you know what I mean? So it was super important, like you said, for us to have for parents to be brave enough, you know what I mean? Because there's often so much negativity surrounding protesting, you know what I mean? And when it is so, and I'm hoping that the audience is getting this because I keep saying it, it's vital to tenderizing, thank you, Tremaine, to tenderizing the response that'll come. It's vital to getting people prepared and ready for their need to be empathetic and to respond in an empathetic way. You know what I mean? It is, like you said, it was very powerful to have children there because they're experiencing it at 4 and 5 years old. They know, they don't know the terms, you know what I mean? But I remember being in, some classes, and I don't remember 4 or 5 very well now at this older age, but when I do remember 3rd and 4th grade and kind of just recognizing some differences in the ways that I was being treated and, versus someone else. And I didn't know what that meant or whatever. I'm an observant person. I've always been a person who just kind of sits back and watches. And so I think that for that reason, I was able to just notice some differences. And at the time, of course, I didn't know what I was experiencing, but I was still experiencing it. And then we have children who are just, a lot of us are brought up in poverty. That's a direct, product of racism. You know what I mean? So our children are experiencing it. So it was very powerful for our parents to, to recognize the importance of what you were doing, the importance of that event, and then bring their kids out. You know what I mean? So I'm so grateful, because you sparked a lot here in Jackson. So I chair the Racial Equity Commission at the city level, and John Willis, he's our first chief diversity officer. Chief Equity Officer, I forget what his title is, but it's something Chief Equity Officer, I think. Anyways, though, he's doing a project right now about redlining here in the city of Jackson. And and sometimes, he talks about some of the protests that happened like in the 1930s, you know what I mean? So long ago, and one thing I think I love about Black people is that we never have been just the people who lay down and just, and just accept it. No, we are fighting back in some way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? Sometimes we're waiting for Akearah Anderson to say, hey, look, let's get this protest going. And other times we're, doing other types of protests, you know what I mean? Which are all important and significant in their own way. But even here in the city of Jackson, we as a community, we don't know how our ancestors who just were from here, so our Jackson ancestors, how they did fight and how they did protest. But it's been so long that, again, we didn't know. In this community, I don't know that our community, always recognizes how sometimes we are willing to just accept things versus challenging them, because that's what a protest is. A protest is a challenge. It's saying, hold on, wait a minute, no. You know what I mean? Let's look at this. Let's demand some answers for this. And let's do something different. You know what I mean? So thank you again. I have to keep saying that because it was pretty powerful. You know what I mean? Okay, protests over, days are over. What's next for Akearah after the protest? What was your mind there on what's next? Were you thinking what's next, or were you just like, you know what, I just need to relax?
I was kind of in between both, because I was trying to focus on college and school and things like that, but I also still wanted to be in my community. So I was thinking, and me and my mom were talking about having another protest, or joining in on someone else's protest. And so that's what I did do. I went to other people who had protests and supported them and things like that. So that's what I did for that. And I was also still focused on school, so I didn't have much time to go to a whole bunch of like protests, but the ones that I could make, I did go to make sure that to show my community that that I'm going to show up to your protest too. You came out and you supported me, and now it's my turn to come out here and support everybody else who's putting on a protest or event or fundraiser or anything like that of the sort.
Yeah, I know. I remember seeing you in some of the pictures in the news for the Black Lives Matter paintings. I think you went to both of them. Did you go to both of them? I think you were at both of them. Yes, I did. Yep, I only went to the one on Milwaukee. That was the only one I was able to get to. But I remember seeing you in some of those pictures, and even news articles. They were able to get you some quotes from you about just the importance of what was occurring. You know what I mean? Yeah, that was pretty awesome. You know what I mean? We still have those murals, you know what I mean, on the streets. We got the one on Washington. I think it's Washington.
Yes.
Washington. I hope it's Washington. And then the other one on Milwaukee. I know, and we won't talk a whole lot about that, but I know the one on Milwaukee, we got the black, red, and green. And so that was kind of awesome, to get those. And the yellow's beautiful as well, but it was nice to get those, our African colors on that one. Okay, so I know people have been asking you, like, okay, look here, who are you trying to be? Are you gonna be the next advocate? Are you gonna be, and if you are, I'm like, yeah. But if you're not, it's okay too, but what's next for Akearah in that space? Is there anything next?
So for next, I've been trying to get in, with Hakeem and stuff, and doing the Southside Summerfest and things like that. So I've been working on doing that. Good. And this is gonna take, so this is more for the long run. I want to bring a youth program back to Jackson after I complete my master's, my bachelor's and my master's. Yep. And I want it to focus on, of course, the youth, and teaching them, like just basic life skills, and how to be an advocate, how to advocate for yourself, because I think that self-advocacy is very, very important for young people.
Yes. I love that.
So those are the short-term and long-term goals for right now. Yeah,
I love that. I absolutely love that. So some people may not know, but Hakeem Crampton, he does organize. He has a team with him who organizes the Southside Summerfest. And I think this year they kind of expanded it, and they're going a couple months longer, which is kind of exciting. I think that the first one is the 23rd of this month, and he's doing something with book reading, spoken word maybe this month, which I think is exciting. We get to expand it. Education is key. I don't know if anybody knows who I am when it comes to education, but education is everything for our community. So I'm excited about him bringing this reading program, and then you getting involved in that. You having in his entire program. Because it's been really bringing our Black community together. We need that so bad. We need
bad, yes,
our community to realize that, hey, look, come together, stick together, fight together. You know what I mean? So I am excited for that. And then even when you create your program, because you will be creating it, I think that's even something else that I just want to highlight. At 21, you have a plan. You know what I mean? You're saying, okay, when I get done with my bachelor's and my master's, I'll be in the midst of creating, this program for advocacy. That's important for young people to recognize as well, is that, it's never too early to begin to prepare. Right. It's never too early to plan. You know what I mean? And sometimes when you have a plan and you write it down, it becomes action, and it becomes it's brought to, to actuality. It becomes, you know what I mean? So that's kind of exciting too. I know your mom is super proud of you, we're so grateful to have you in our community, so thank you, Mom, wherever you are. Any last thoughts or any and I should have said this already, Akearah. If you had any questions, you can ask me too. I forgot. If you had any questions or anything else,
Oh no, I don't have any questions for you. And you are summing up, all my questions for you. And I know some background about you and
yeah. Okay, so anything that you might want to, and you might have already felt like you've already said this, you know what I mean? We've talked about youth and et cetera. I do have some people with some comments I don't know if you can see the comments. Are you able to see the comments?
Yes, I am. I will
okay.
look right now.
Okay. We got some people on here who know you are, who you are. George says, impressive young sister. We need more young people like this to step up and be heard. Yes, yes, yes. Tremaine wants to know what's your business called? What's your organization called? Because of course you're running one. Such a leader. Yes, yes, yes. And it's how you deliver it to them. Most definitely. Any final thoughts though that you might want to share about the event, about yourself, about what's, what you have going on ahead? I mean, you've talked about your college and et cetera. So anything more? And if not, that's totally fine too.
I just want to really focus and add on that I want parents to take their children to these events so that they can grow up and that they can see this, if you have Black children or brown children, they're experiencing these things and they need to be immersed in their culture and get involved in the community, like community support. So if you see a protest happening or an event, come out. Even if you're nervous, just come for, a half hour and see what it's about. Meet people, talk to people. I mean, talk to me. I know if you see me, feel free to come up to me and talk to me. Ask me questions. I know I'm a very open person. I'm an approachable person. So I want you to come and talk to me, ask me questions. And, kids can talk to me too. If they have any questions about, how can I throw a protest or how can I do what you did or anything in general. So I just want people to understand that bringing the youth to events like this, it can be nerve-wracking as a parent and things like that, but it's important that you bring them so that they can be immersed in their culture and their community and see that their community will back them if they want to do something like this.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I want to say so much more, but I feel like you've done it such a good job that I don't want to mess up what you said. So I'm not going to say more except to say immersed. That term is just everything. You know what I mean? Like you said, our kids are already experiencing this stuff in school. They need to know how to deal with it, and immersing them in their culture and in responses that culturally speaking, we have always done. It's been the only way that we've gotten anywhere is through protests. It's the only way the transformation has occurred. You know what I mean? So thank you so much, Akearah. We did get done a little bit early tonight, which I am okay with. You might need some more time for homework or something maybe, but thank you so much for joining me tonight. I have truly enjoyed every minute of, this conversation. I'm so grateful for you, for your passion, for your willingness to step out of your comfort zone, not only in making the speech, but in just organizing our city around such an important issue. And then even your continued work that you do here, you're still, people don't know, but if you're looking for Akearah at the events, look for the people who are stepping, dancing, look for them and you'll probably find Akearah.
You will find me. I will be on the dance floor. I am out there.
You'll probably find Akearah. Trust me, she's good too. Okay, so just look for Akearah in the dancers. You know what I mean? But thank you so much, Akearah. We're grateful to have you. We're blessed as a community to have you in our, leading as you do. So thank you.
And thank you for this platform and inviting me to come and talk. Because when you messaged me, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. I don't know what I'm gonna say. But and you're so, what's the word I'm looking for? You're so personable and I never feel, uncomfortable speaking with you. And so thank you for being that open person and thank you for what you do in our community, especially fighting for our students. And, so thank you for what you do too. And thank you for this platform and yeah, I had a really nice time talking with you.
Aw, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all so much for joining us. This has been another meeting of Diverse Minds with Keisha Hamilton. You all can look forward to another amazing conversation. We are trying to find the best of the best, and we are finding the best of the best to have these conversations with you all. They're bringing information, they're bringing experience, they're bringing, this energy that you need to tap into and be a part of, and take note from, and to support. So look for Akearah Anderson on Facebook. And you can find her on Google as well. I don't know any of your other spaces, but if you want to connect with her, feel free to. Like she said, she's open. She actually does very well with children. She has 5 siblings. She's the oldest of 6, but she's got an amazing family. And she would be a perfect person to reach out to for questions and things around this subject matter, and others. So feel free to reach out. Again, thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you all in 2 weeks from now. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.